Hey everyone. Hey everyone. Hey there. Marlena here. I am here to talk about how to handle unexpected transitions, which we all have had. So I think it is something that a lot of professional women can relate to and necessary for us to kind of get a handle on if we're going to be successful, and not only successful, but successful with ease, right? Because we don't want to have stress and anxiety leading us. We want to be doing this with a level of ease. This is really important to me as a coach for women, especially Black women, to be doing this at a level where they are not on taking too much, because the world will never tell you you're doing enough. And so you have to be in a position where you can decide what is enough and decide how to navigate ambiguity and uncertainty, where you are in a position of power and in control in your life. Because otherwise, people will be telling you what to do and how to do it, and it will never feel resonant or connected to who you are, because you're not really leading from a place of your own personal values, and you're not feeling like you're in control of the situation, which is typically why we don't feel at peace, because we're not feeling like we're in the driver's seat. We feel like we're in the passenger seat being dragged along or driven along somewhere we don't want to go. And so that is why it's really important for you to have ownership and to know who you are and your values, and what you're going to do when you have to navigate uncharted territory, right? So this is what we want to make sure of. And so if this is making sense to you, if this is connecting to who you are and what you find yourself doing as a professional woman, feel free, let me know in the comments, raise your hand, let me know, say, Marlena, yes, girl, this is what I have to deal with. This is what I be thinking about. So when I say navigating transitions, I'm talking about people, whether it's somebody leaving your work, turnover, right? As a leader, you're talking about disappointment with not getting a role that you wanted, right? In a specific career that you're going after. And so, how do we continue to move forward? Or the role you thought you wanted, right? Sometimes we find ourselves in places where we worked hard to get there, and it's not actually the place we thought it was. So what do we do now? We're in the midst of a particular storm. So how do I steer the boat to get it on track, right? So one of the first ways and strategies I like to tell people to do, and is really, really powerful, is to really ask yourself, how are you labeling this in your mind? So you kind of have to be able to catch the thoughts that are leading the emotional state, and then that follows behind that is your decision making and your behavior, right? So if you are telling yourself that this is a horrible situation, right, then the thinking and the decisions that come behind that are going to be one alternative. If you are telling yourself that this is an opportunity, you will see different thoughts and decisions become available and possible from that label. So you have to really ask yourself and be in a position to reflect on, how am I seeing this situation? How am I labeling it? What am I calling this? And part of this is paying attention to your language. And it's something that we're not taught to do as people. It's not something we pay a lot of attention to. And those are like almost three different skills that I kind of went through pretty quickly. It's paying attention to your thoughts, right? It's naming how you're seeing the situation and giving the language behind the emotional experience that you're having with what you're going through. And it is really insightful when you can do this, because what that does is allow you to see your experience and to then make decisions, not from an emotional state, from a fearful state, but from a powerful state, because you are in a seat in your experience and being able to make decisions from um, a different state. You're not in the emotion, you're kind of have visibility to the emotion. And so you can separate yourself from it, right? So if you're saying, oh, I am seeing it this way, then you can see the choice to see it another way. So, for example, when I was in my one of my corporate jobs and my last one, I saw initially the opportunity as my way into a new industry. And with that type of perspective, it was exciting. I had a level of engagement. I was motivated to learn. I was feeling really excited to do new things. There wasn't a lot of fear involved in that. I would say transitioning into that space, my perspective changed a little bit, and I started to see it as um, slow moving, not really impactful. And with those labels, then I started to experience low motivation, disengagement, not seeing how I was making a difference. So, perspective really can shift how you move through a situation. Now, the power is coming around with understanding what is happening, right? That's the first thing. We can't make an assessment, you can't make a change. You can't tell yourself it's like getting on the scale, right? If you don't know what the number is, you can't change it. So that's the first step. Um, then you have to say, what is this impact to you, right? So you have to know what's going on. You have to say, what is the impact to you? You know, so if I'm saying that this is exciting to me, then the impact to me is that I'm ready to go. I'm showing up. I'm getting up early. I'm reaching out to people to learn from them. But if the transition that's happened, like I didn't get the role that I wanted, I had this experience where I interviewed for a job. I felt I was very qualified for. I didn't get it, and the impact to me initially was frustration. I was really upset, but you really when you find yourself in that position, you have a couple of different choices. You can be frustrated, you can be angry, but I felt like that is not going to hinder me. So I need to understand what in this person's mind was holding me back. And so taking that approach really led me to be curious. So I said the impact to me initially was frustration. The secondary impact was curiosity. I want to know what they think they know about me. And with that impact, I made different choices and decisions. So then you get to see what new opportunities get to come up for you, right? And that then determines some steps and plans for you to be able to grow into a different version of who you need to be to move forward in this transition. For me, in that particular scenario, it was okay, I'm going to then develop a relationship with someone that denied me something that I felt like I had earned. That was not easy, but it was so fruitful for my growth in a number of different ways. And not saying that that has to be the way, that's not the way that all my clients have always went in terms of how they go about their growth, but it shows you when you have a specific perspective and you choose the ones in which you do so from a place of power because you understand how this is impacting you and you want to choose how it's going to impact you moving forward, then you can open up new possibilities. Right? So let me know if this is making sense, y'all. Share in the comments here. Let me know. Um, and then once you do that, you can then ask yourself what part of you is showing up, right? Because a lot of times what we find is we are very diverse people. We're not one self, if you will. You have the best way I can think of this, because I'm a mom, I have three boys, is that Mama Marlena is very different than maybe the Marlena that my coworkers saw 10 years in corporate America, right? And not that I'm a pretty genuine person. That is a signature of my personality. But what I mean by that is there's certain versions of myself that show up, right? I might be a little bit more nurturing with my sons. I'm not really trying to be nurturing with my colleagues, but I may be more patient with my children. I may be more demanding with certain people in my work because that's what's necessary. But if you're not certain or you're not aware of how and who is showing up, in your life in different roles that you play, then you're not leading your life. You're kind of reacting to every moment versus deciding how to respond ahead of time and being in charge of the parts of yourself that maybe have some self sabotaging or reactionary, fear based responses leading the way, right? And so, what I mean by that is we got parts of ourselves that really helped us at different times in our life get through things, but they may not help you in every situation. So that part of you may be the part that pushed you to maybe get through really hard parts of school, right? But at this point in your life, you need to be setting more boundaries, not doing more work. But if you're letting that part of yourself lead, and during the transition, you're not delegating. You're not giving people their jobs. You're not giving people their work, but you're being overworked and being frustrated and looking frazzled, and you're not leading from a high level and making decisions. Or in the event that you're not in the role that you want, right? You're not giving yourself the space and the capacity to make a clear choice, and you might just go after the first thing that comes your way because you just not in a space that you can be calm enough and clear enough to know what's best for you now and in the future. So we have to be clear about which part of ourself is showing up so that we can, one, create internal as well as external resources that supply us with the needs that we need to be the best version of ourselves. Because the whole point of us being here, the whole point of us working towards success is so that we live well, is that we experience our lives, is that we enjoy who we are, we like who we are, and we have the capacity to share that with other people. And that is a purpose for my work, and that's what I'm really, really grateful to be able to help other people achieve and to do and to explore and see how much more you are than what you thought you were. There's just so much more to uncover and to discover about yourself. And that is my favorite thing to do with people is for them to discover and see it about themselves and for them to surprise themselves about what they can do and what is possible. So these are the ways, some strategies that you can definitely use um, to really come back to transitions because leading and navigating transitions in our life and in our work really isn't about planning the perfect thing, and it is about having a plan, but it is about having a plan for how to handle things and how to respond in a way that is honest to who you are, that is relevant to your life, that makes sense for you, right? So because somebody that's like, oh, I'm gonna go take a long walk, to take three deep breaths, which are practical things to do, and I will be doing lives on that as well because they are life changing. Um, there's also these practicals that I share today. But there's some other folks who might say, it's time to quit, move across the country, and that might not be relevant to you. So you have to know who you are to have the relevance connected to your work in your life. Um, and you can't do that if you don't know what it is that you are meant to be doing at this moment. And so these strategies are really helpful for you to do the reflective questioning, journaling, and then to take action based upon clarity. So I hope that this was helpful. Let me know if it was. Send me a note or question online, and you can follow me here for more at Marlena Bayless Coaching. All right. I hope y'all enjoy your day. Bye.